Right now, somewhere in Japan, a car is sitting in a dusty lot. It has more cylinders than your daily driver, more engineering than most modern exotics, more soul than anything rolling off a production line in 2026, and it costs less than your monthly rent. We are talking about Japanese V8 engines built during an era when engineers didn't answer to accountants, when horsepower was a religion, when a car wasn't just a tool, it was a statement that said, "We built this because we could." In 2026, every new car is wrapped in sensors, throttled by software, and designed to be leased, not loved. But these 5 machines, they were built to last. And here's the wild part. You can still buy them for around $4,000. 5 Japanese V8s. 5 cars the internet keeps sleeping on. 5 machines that will still be running strong when half the 2026 lineup is already landfill. Let's go. And before we dive in, if you're new here, this channel is where we talk about the cars that actually matter. Not the ones with the biggest marketing budgets, the ones with the biggest engines. Hit subscribe. You're going to want to be here for every single one of these. Secret V8, number 01. Toyota Celsior, Japan's most disrespected luxury weapon, the Lexus LS 400. They never told you about. Let me ask you something. What if I told you that Toyota once built a Rolls-Royce rival? From scratch, and most people in the Western world have never even heard of it. The Toyota Celsior, that's the name. In Japan, this was the car. The one rich businessmen in Tokyo were climbing into. The one that made Mercedes engineers in Stuttgart reportedly pull one apart and stare at it in silence. Because the Celsior, sold in America as the Lexus LS 400, was Toyota's moonshot. It was the car they built to prove that Japan could out-engineer everyone. And not just out-engineer, out-silence, out-smooth, outlast. The engine. Let's talk about the engine. The 1UZFE, a 4.0-liter naturally aspirated V8 that Toyota engineered from a blank sheet of paper. No corners cut, no budget compromises. This engine was over-engineered to a degree that now looks almost insane compared to modern turbocharged 4-cylinders with scheduled replacement intervals of 60,000 miles. The 1UZ-FE routinely runs past 300,000 miles with nothing more than oil changes and the occasional timing belt service. That is not folklore. That is not a YouTube myth. That is documented reality across hundreds of forums, mechanics, and owners worldwide. This engine was built to a standard that simply does not exist in new car manufacturing anymore. And the Celsior specifically, the JDM version, was spec'd even higher than the export Lexus model. Thicker glass, more acoustic insulation, better interior finishes on the early UCF-10 and UCF-20 generations. Toyota made the Celsior for their home market, and they did not cut a single corner. So why can you buy one for $2,500? Because it doesn't have a badge that people recognize at a traffic light. Because it doesn't come up on Instagram algorithm feeds. Because it's not a Supra. It's not a GTR. It doesn't have a JDM sticker culture around it. It's just a big, quiet, devastatingly reliable luxury sedan with a perfect V8 under the hood. And that's exactly why it's priced like a used microwave. Now here's the kicker. The Celsior was replaced by the UCF-30 generation, which introduced the 3UZ-FE, a 4.3-liter version of the same architecture with a reported 279 horsepower. Still naturally aspirated, still silky smooth, still the kind of engine that mechanics whisper about like it's some kind of sacred artifact. What does ownership look like in 2026? Parts are available, both from Japanese importers and because the Lexus LS 400 uses many of the same components, so even your local parts store isn't completely in the dark. The car is large, comfortable, and floats down the road like it's riding on clouds. It was built for a Japanese highway system that values refinement over raw speed, and that DNA is baked into every component. If you're someone who wants a V8-powered luxury car that will start every single morning without drama, cost you almost nothing to insure, and draw absolutely zero attention from thieves or tax collectors, the Celsior is your answer. It is the most under-discussed bargain in the Japanese import world right now. And that, right there, is why it's car number 1 on this list. But hold on, because it gets wilder from here. Secret V8 number 02. Nissan President. The car that chauffeured Japanese prime ministers, now available for the price of a laptop. This car moved heads of state. Let that land for a second. The Nissan President was Japan's official VIP limousine, used by corporations, government officials, and the kind of people who have assistants. And right now, you can buy one for less than the price of a decent used PlayStation collection. The G50 President, produced from 1990 to 2010, was the final and most sophisticated version of a lineage that Nissan started in 1965. It was their answer to a simple question. What would a Japanese Rolls-Royce look like if it were engineered with paranoid attention to quality and absolutely no interest in selling to the masses? Under the hood, the VH45DE. If that code sounds familiar, it should. This is the same 4.5-liter double overhead cam V8 that powered the Infiniti Q45, a car that American enthusiasts have finally started to appreciate as one of the most underrated sedans ever sold on the North American market. But in the President, this engine was tuned differently, smoother, more refined. Built for the kind of effortless highway cruising that makes passengers forget they're in a car at all. The VH45DE produces around 270 to 280 horsepower in standard form, but the engineering story goes deeper than the numbers. This engine was built to Nissan's highest internal specifications, featuring forged components, precise tolerances, and a construction philosophy that prioritized longevity over peak output. It is not unusual to find G50 Presidents with original engines sitting well past the 200,000-kilometer mark, still running clean and quiet. But wait, here's what makes the President genuinely special. Nissan built the G50 as a rear-wheel drive, body-on-frame vehicle in an era when the rest of the industry was moving to unibody construction. Why? Because Nissan's engineers and their corporate clients demanded a ride quality that only a separated body and frame can deliver. The result is a car that absorbs road imperfections in a way that feels almost supernatural. The interior is where Nissan went completely overboard. Full Wilton wool carpeting, rear passenger seats that recline almost flat, individual climate zones, hand-stitched leather across surfaces that the occupants will never even look at directly. There is a reason this car was the choice of Japan's elite. Not because of marketing, but because it delivered a quality of experience that simply could not be argued with. And here is the wild irony of 2026. That exact level of craftsmanship, the kind where humans spend hours finishing an interior by hand, that is now considered boutique, bespoke, exclusive. In a brand new car, that level of finish would cost you 6 figures. In a G50 President, it costs you the equivalent of a few months of coffee. Ownership considerations? Parts can be sourced from Japan. The VH45DE is well documented. The car is large, genuinely impressively large, so factor that into your garage planning. But mechanically, the President is no more complex than any well-built luxury sedan of its era, and the simplicity of its naturally aspirated V8 means that a competent independent mechanic can service it without needing specialist software or factory tooling. The G50 Nissan President is proof that Japanese engineering ambition in the 1990s had no ceiling. They built a car worthy of heads of state, and then, as those heads of state moved on to newer models, simply left these machines sitting at auction with price tags that don't reflect what they actually are. That's your opportunity. And now, car number 3. This one is going to surprise you, because it's not what you think it is. Secret V8 number 03, Mitsubishi Proudia. Mitsubishi's most ambitious secret, a V8 flagship nobody talks about. I want you to pause whatever you're doing and really absorb this fact. Mitsubishi, the same company known for the Evo, for the Eclipse, for rally cars and turbocharged legends, once built a full-size luxury V8 flagship sedan. And almost nobody in the Western world knows it exists. The Mitsubishi Proudia. Produced from 1999 to 2001. A 2-year production run so brief it almost feels like a dream. Or a corporate experiment that got canceled before the world could fully process it. And that short run is precisely why these cars are sitting at the bottom of the market right now, misunderstood and deeply undervalued. The Proudia was Mitsubishi's answer to the Toyota Celsior and the Nissan President. It was their statement that they too could build a world-class luxury sedan. And to do it, they went all the way. They developed the 8A80. A 4.5-liter DOHC V8 that was specifically engineered for this platform. Not repurposed from another car, not borrowed from a commercial vehicle. Purpose-built from the ground up for a luxury application. The 8A80 V8 was Japan's whispered secret. In Japanese domestic market magazines at the time, this engine was discussed in almost reverential terms. It produced 280 horsepower, the legal limit in Japan at the time under the gentleman's agreement, and it delivered torque in a way that the published figures simply don't capture. Smooth from idle, linear through the rev range, the kind of engine that makes the car feel effortless rather than performative. The Proudia rode on a platform jointly developed with Hyundai, a business arrangement that has led some people to dismiss it, which is a mistake. The Mitsubishi engineering team's input on this chassis was dominant, and the execution reflects that. The ride, the steering, the structural integrity, these are Japanese luxury standards, not Korean economy car compromises. The interior of the Proudia is frankly embarrassing for 2026 cars to look at. Real wood trim machined and finished by hand. Leather that was sourced and stitched with the kind of care you now only find in six-figure German flagships. Rear seat accommodations that were clearly designed for passengers who expected to be pampered. Mitsubishi built this car knowing it was going to sit next to the Celsior and the president in corporate parking lots, and they refused to look cheap next to them. The fact that it only lasted 2 years is a business tragedy, not an engineering one. Mitsubishi made a calculation that the luxury sedan segment was too crowded, and they pulled the Proudia before it could establish itself. The result is a car with V8 engineering pedigree, genuine luxury execution, and a production run so small that many auction lots in Japan treat them like curiosities rather than serious luxury vehicles. That's your arbitrage opportunity right there. Parts sourcing is the challenge here. There's no hiding that. With 2 years of production, you're not going to find these at your local breaker's yard. You need to go through Japanese specialists. But for someone who is mechanically aware and willing to build relationships with importers, the Proudia represents one of the most fascinating V8 ownership propositions on the planet. A car with genuine exclusivity, genuine luxury, and a V8 heart that the market has priced like it's common. It is anything but common, and we're only halfway through this list. Car number 4. This is where things get properly unexpected. Secret V8 number 04. Toyota Crown Majesta, the understated giant, Toyota's most overlooked V8 platform, and their most indestructible. There is a version of Toyota's famous UZ V8 engine family that you almost never hear discussed, and it lives in a car that deserves far, far more attention than it gets. The Crown Majesta is Toyota's most discreet full-size luxury offering, and it contains one of the most battle-hardened V8 architectures ever fitted to a passenger car. The Crown Majesta has been a fixture of Japanese corporate and government life since the 1980s, but it's the S170 and S180 generations, produced from 1999 to 2006, that represent the absolute peak of the formula. These cars came equipped with either the 1UZ-FE 4.0-liter V8 we discussed in the Celsior, or, and this is where it gets seriously interesting, the 2UZ-FE 4.7-liter V8. The 2UZ-FE. Let's give this engine its proper due. This is the engine Toyota put in the Land Cruiser 100 series, the Forerunner, the Tundra. It is an engine designed for abuse, for off-road punishment, for towing, for commercial use in demanding environments. And in the Crown Majesta, Toyota took that industrial strength foundation and wrapped it in a luxury sedan body. What does that mean in practice? It means you have a car that rides like a cloud, sits in near total silence at highway speeds, and carries an engine underneath it that was designed to survive conditions far more demanding than the smooth highways of suburban Japan. The 2UZ-FE and Majesta specification is not stressed. It is running well within its comfort zone, and that means it lasts essentially forever. Stories of 2UZ-FE engines surviving past 400,000 kilometers without internal work are not rare. They are a consistent pattern. This engine, in a luxury sedan application, is arguably underworked to such a degree that conventional wear timelines simply don't apply. The Crown Majesta's identity in Japanese culture is worth understanding. In Japan, the Crown has always been aspirational. It was the car you bought when you had arrived, socially, professionally, financially. The Majesta was the top-tier expression of that aspiration. It was bought new by executives, by doctors, by established business owners. And then, as those buyers moved to newer models or aged out of driving, these cars entered the used market in a state of meticulous preservation. Many examples you find today have been garaged their entire lives, serviced at dealerships, detailed seasonally, driven carefully. The average Japanese buyer of a new Crown Majesta treated it like a cathedral. That cultural attitude toward car ownership is now your gain as a buyer in 2026. The S180 generation in particular deserves special attention. Toyota updated the S180 with a more sophisticated suspension setup, refined the interior appointments further, and added driving assistance technologies that were genuinely advanced for the early 2000s. The result is a car that feels more contemporary than its age suggests and drives with a composure that many modern vehicles simply cannot match. Boot space, interior room, build quality, reliability, V8 power. All of these attributes are exceptional. The only thing the Crown Majesta lacks is the brand recognition that creates auction competition. And that's the reason you can still acquire one for under $5,000 in 2026. That window will not stay open forever. As JDM import culture continues to mature and buyers become more sophisticated, the Crown Majesta is going to be discovered. The question is whether you're in front of that wave or chasing it from behind. One car left on this list, and I've saved the most unexpected for last. This one might genuinely change how you think about Japanese engineering history. Secret V8 number 05, Honda Legend KB1. Honda's forbidden V8 masterpiece. The one Honda never officially admitted was this good. Alright, I need you to lean in for this one, because this car requires a bit of context. And when you have it, the story becomes one of the most fascinating in Japanese automotive history. Honda. When you say Honda and V8 in the same sentence, most people look confused. Honda makes efficient engines. Honda makes the Civic. Honda makes the NSX with a V6. Honda doesn't do V8s, right? Wrong. And Honda themselves might prefer you keep believing that. The Honda Legend KB1, produced from 2004 to 2012, was Honda's full-size luxury flagship. A car that introduced super handling all-wheel drive, one of the most sophisticated torque vectoring AWD systems ever put in a production vehicle. It was a technological tour de force wrapped in a conservative luxury body, and it was deeply underappreciated at the time. But here's where the V8 angle enters the story. Honda's predecessor Legend, the KA8, produced from 1990 to 1995, was actually the car that Honda developed alongside their Formula One program during one of the most successful periods in motorsport history. The C32B engine fitted to the KA8 Legend was a 3.2-liter unit, but the engineering lessons from Honda's V8 F1 program of the late 1980s, including the RA series engines that powered Ayrton Senna to 3 world championships, directly influenced the thinking and engineering culture that produced these flagship road cars. The KB1 Legend carries that legacy forward. Its 3.5-liter J35A V6 is not a V8 technically, but what Honda did with that engine in combination with SHAWD technology delivers a dynamic experience that exceeds what many V8 cars achieve. The system can send torque to individual wheels with a precision that most modern all-wheel drive systems still haven't matched. But wait, why is it on a V8 list? Because the KB2 and KB3 variants of the same Legend generation came with a 3.7-liter J37A engine producing 295 horsepower. An engine so thoroughly over-engineered that Honda engineers themselves described it as having V8 equivalent torque characteristics in mid-range delivery. This isn't marketing speak. The J37A's power curve was specifically shaped to replicate the low-end grunt that made American V8s famous, while maintaining Honda's trademark high-revving character. Add the SHAWD putting that power to the ground with millimeter precision, and you have a car that performs like a V8-powered sports sedan while carrying Honda's bulletproof reliability DAN. The interior of the KB1 Legend is a revelation. Honda spent lavishly on the KB1. The materials quality, particularly in JDM specification, is exceptional. Multi-zone climate control, reclining rear seats, a bespoke audio system tuned specifically for the car's acoustic signature, full leather across every surface that a passenger might touch, and several they won't. This was Honda's statement car, their proof that they could compete with Lexus and Nissan in the domestic luxury segment, and they did not approach that challenge casually. The KB1 Legend in 2026 sits at a fascinating price point. Early examples are available for around $3,000 to $4,000 in Japanese domestic market condition. The SHAWD system requires proper maintenance. Fluid changes are non-negotiable. But Honda's engineering philosophy means that a well-maintained KB1 is not a financial liability. It's a sophisticated machine that rewards ownership intelligence. The underrated story of the Honda Legend is really the underrated story of Honda itself. Honda's luxury instincts were always present, always sophisticated, always technically ambitious, and consistently undervalued by buyers who couldn't see past the badge's economy car associations. The KB1 Legend is the best argument Honda ever made that they should be taken seriously in the luxury space. And the fact that it can be purchased today for a fraction of its engineering value is one of the cleanest value propositions in the used car world. That's car number 5. And now, let me tell you why all 5 of these machines matter more today than they ever did when they were new. Why these cars win in 2026. Here's the truth about 2026. Cars are more expensive, more complex, and more disposable than at any point in automotive history. The average new car transaction price has broken records 3 years running. Software updates can disable features you paid for. Subscription services are being attached to things like heated seats. The car industry has decided that ownership is a service to be managed, not a machine to be kept. And then there's these 5 cars. Built in an era when engineers were given time, budget, and the mandate to build something that would endure. Not something that would be replaced by the next model. Not something optimized for a 3-year lease cycle. Something that would run indefinitely, reliably, with dignity. The Toyota Celsior, with its 1UZ-FE that has already outlived 3 generations of modern vehicles and shows no intention of stopping. The Nissan President G50, with its body-on-frame construction and VH45DE engine, engineered for heads of state and still delivering that experience for $3,000 in 2026. The Mitsubishi Prudia, a 2-year production run that makes it one of the most exclusive V8 flagships Japan ever produced, available for less than a month's rent. The Toyota Crown Majesta, carrying the 2UZ-FE, an engine that was designed for punishment and has never been asked to deliver anything more demanding than a comfortable Japanese commute. And the Honda Legend KB1, Honda's flagship technological statement, carrying an AWD system that still embarrasses many modern luxury competitors. All 5 under $4,000 to $5,000. All 5 with naturally aspirated engines, no turbos to fail, no boost thresholds to manage, no intercoolers to replace. All 5 with the kind of engineering documentation that means a competent mechanic can work on them. All 5 built in a country whose automotive culture treats reliability not as a marketing claim, but as a matter of professional honor. The question isn't whether one of these cars is worth buying. The question is which one you're buying first. Because the window on these prices is not permanent. Japanese domestic market awareness is growing globally. Import regulations in various markets are opening these vehicles up to new buyers. And the simple mathematics of supply, finite production numbers, decades of attrition, increasing demand, mean that clean examples are getting harder to find at these price points with every passing year. I've seen what happened to the Lexus LS400 when American buyers started paying attention. I've watched the Nissan Skyline go from forgotten import to 4-figure auction result to 5-figure collector piece in the span of a decade. The same trajectory is coming for every car on this list. The only question is whether you're buying now or explaining later why you didn't. These are the last honest V8s. Japan built them. The world is just starting to remember. Don't be late. Subscribe if you want to be first on the next one, because the next list, it's going to make this one look like the warm-up act. Drop a comment below. Tell me which of these 5 is the one you'd hunt down first. I read every comment. I'll see you in the next one.